The energy plan. You don't have to go home from work exhausted. Are you currently living your life as a marathon runner or a sprinter? Well, if you are like most of us, we tend to live our lives as if we are running in an endless marathon, pushing ourselves far beyond healthy levels of exertion. Just think for a moment about the look of many long-distance runners, gaunt, slightly sunken, and emotionally flat. But think of a sprinter. Sprinters typically look powerful, bursting with energy and eager to push themselves to their new limits. No matter how intense the demand they face, the finish line is clearly visible, 100 or 200 meters down the track. We too must learn to live our lives as a series of sprints, fully engaging for periods of time, and then fully disengaging and seeking renewal. But it is no surprise that most of us are running so hard. Feeling forever starved for time, we assume that we have no choice but to cram as much as possible into every day. Dr. Robert Holden, a psychologist from the UK, suggests we have moved from a fast society to a manic one. The pace of life for many of us has accelerated past fast to manic. The word manic is derived from mania, which is defined as an absence of intelligence, a type of madness. So perhaps it is not so surprising that many people respond with crazy busy when you ask them about their day. So life is going at a pretty frantic pace. Adding to the problem is our natural energy capacity substantially declines after the age of 35, while the demand on our energy actually increases. Children, aging parents, more responsibility at work, a desire to contribute to the community, etc., all make demands upon our energy. And sadly, many of us take better care of our cell phones than ourselves. It took Arianna Huffington collapsing at her desk from exhaustion, hitting her desk, breaking her cheekbone, and getting a nasty gash over her eye before she realized that there had to be a better way of living. Exhaustion from this crazy pace of life, however, isn't just happening in corporations. It is even more pronounced in healthcare. According to a study conducted by Dr. Linda Duxbury of 4 hospitals in Ontario, healthcare workers are in poorer physical health than the general population. In fact, 1 in 3 are at risk for burnout. According to all the research, there is a human energy crisis in healthcare. The most popular coping strategies for most people are caffeine and sugar. They are both quick and reliable sources of energy when we need it, but it isn't sustainable energy. So this is the most common way we use to stay alert during the day. And this is the way many of us disengage in the evening. Research shows that 1 out of 3 people cope by drinking or using prescription medication and alcohol to cope with their stress. So why should we care if people are running on empty some days? After all, everyone does get tired. It is because there are so many negative consequences of low energy, particularly in healthcare. There is a negative impact at work, but it also plays havoc with our personal lives. Just think of a time when you were really tired. Irritability, mistakes, accidents, and frustration all go up, and the level of difficulty doing any task increases. At the same time, patience, focus, concentration, judgment, and memory all decrease. The way we are working isn't working in our own lives, for the people we lead and manage, and for the organizations in which we work. We are guided by a fatal assumption that the best way to get more done is to work longer and more continuously. But the more hours we work and the longer we go without real renewal, the more we default into behaviors that reduce our effectiveness, impatience, frustration, distraction, and disengagement. And it takes a toll on everyone. Most of us have heard of time management, and yet few of us know about energy management. Yet how you manage your energy throughout the day is even more important than how you manage your time. Just think of coming home from a taxing day of work, only to find out you have lots of unexpected free time on your hands due to the cancellation of a personal commitment. It presents a perfect opportunity to complete so many errands that have been on your to-do list for some time. But you just can't seem to muster the energy to start, let alone complete, any of the tasks on your list. You are just too tired. Let's take a look at the dynamics of energy. When we are in a high, positive energy state, we are happy, focused, enthusiastic, and motivated. This is when we are fully engaged. In a low, positive state, sipping pina coladas by the pool as an example, we are serene, relaxed, peaceful, and tranquil. When we are in a high, negative energy state, perhaps after an argument with a colleague at work, we are angry, fearful, frustrated, and irritated. And when we are in a low negative state, we may be burned out, depressed, or simply exhausted or unhappy. To maintain a high level of performance, the upper right-hand quadrant, we must oscillate between the upper right and lower right quadrants. We need to be constantly dipping into the renewal zone. The importance of full engagement is most vivid in situations where the consequences of disengagement are profound. Imagine for a moment that you are facing open heart surgery. Which energy quadrant do you want your surgeon to be in? How would you feel if he entered the operating room feeling angry, frustrated, and anxious? How about overworked, exhausted, and depressed? What if he was disengaged, laid back, and slightly spacey? Obviously, you want your surgeon energized, confident, and upbeat. Imagine that every time you yelled at someone in frustration, or did sloppy work on a project, or failed to focus your attention fully at the task at hand, you put someone's life at risk. Very quickly, you would become less negative, reckless, and sloppy in the way you manage your energy. We hold ourselves accountable for the ways that we manage our time, and for that matter, our money. We must learn to hold ourselves at least equally accountable for how we manage our energy physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So what are some quick, easy, and effective ways to recharge our batteries throughout the day? Full engagement requires drawing on 4 separate but related sources of energy: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. All 4 dynamics are critical. None is sufficient by itself, and each profoundly influences the other. To perform at our best, we must skillfully manage each of these interconnected dimensions of energy. In combination, they provide us with resilience, or the capacity to bounce back from stress and avoid burnout in the face of highly demanding jobs. Jim Lohr, a performance psychologist, wanted to understand what set apart the greatest competitors in the world from the rest of the pack. So he spent hundreds of hours watching top players and studying tapes of their matches. But he became very frustrated as he couldn't detect any significant difference between the high and low-ranking players. It wasn't until he started to watch what happened between the points that he noticed the difference. The high-ranking players all had recovery routines in place, whether conscious or unconscious. The way they walked, how they held their heads, where they focused their eyes, etc. The low-ranking players had no recovery routines in place at all. The high-ranking players recovered their energy in the 16 to 20 seconds between points. So if you consider a 3-hour match, clearly the player that doesn't have a way of restoring his energy is going to become fatigued more quickly, resulting in more mistakes and negative emotions such as frustration. So short breaks, if done well, is really all we need to restore our energy throughout the day. The same phenomenon applies even for those of us who work in sedentary jobs. Long and continuous hours operating under very high pressure will result in fatigue. So is susceptibility to negative emotions and to distraction, all of which ultimately undermine performance. So it is important we all take regular mental breaks. Somewhere between 90 and 120 minutes, the body begins to crave a period of rest and recovery. Signals include a desire to yawn and stretch, hunger pains, increased tension, difficulty concentrating, an inclination to procrastinate or fantasize, and a higher incidence of mistakes. We are capable of overriding this dip in energy, temporarily, by reaching for caffeine and sugar. But often it is summoning the fight or flight response and flooding our bodies with stress hormones that are designed to help us handle emergencies. Drinking water is perhaps one of the most undervalued sources of physical energy renewal. Unlike hunger, thirst is an inadequate barometer of need. By the time we feel thirsty, we may be long since dehydrated. A growing body of research suggests that drinking at least 64 ounces of water at intervals throughout the day serves performance in a range of important ways. Dehydrate a muscle by as little as 3%, for example, and it will lose 10% of its strength and 8% of its speed. Inadequate hydration also compromises concentration and coordination. We all know how rejuvenating exercise can be. Even a 10-minute walk outside can restore our personal energy well beyond the pickup provided by a cup of coffee. It also positively impacts our mood. Even knowing this, the two main excuses people use for not exercising regularly are time. They just can't find the time to fit it in. And energy. When they do have the time, they may not have the energy to do it. For a positive boost to our mental, physical, and emotional health, just how little can we get away with? The answer, fortunately, is very, very little. Scientists at McMaster University recently conducted a study of interval training to see what was needed to improve health and fitness. One group was assigned a typical endurance workout routine. It consisted of riding at a moderate pace on a stationary bicycle for 45 minutes, with a 2-minute warm-up and a 3-minute cool-down. The other group was assigned interval training. They alternated between riding as hard as they could on bicycles for 20 seconds, and then riding at a very slow pace for 2 minutes, for a total of only 10 minutes. In the end, only 1 minute in total was actually strenuous. Both groups worked out 3 times a week for 12 weeks. By the end of the study, the endurance group had ridden for 27 hours, while the interval group had ridden for 6 hours, only 36 minutes of which was strenuous. The results. After 3 months, the improvements in health and fitness were identical. This is the great news for all of us. We just don't need a lot of time to become fit. But why not also try to make exercise fun?
Okay, quiet please. We'll do an earpiece test.
Okay.
I'm gonna just do a quick test to both of you. So I'll say Mike A, Mike B.
Guys, people are on their way up.
Thank you all so much for coming. How are y'all doing today? Good? Yeah. It's beautiful out, huh? Let's back it up a bit and use all the space. We're just gonna start off super, super simple. Stretch. I want you to take your arms, wrap them around each shoulder. Let's just let out a big sigh, okay? Ah.
Tell them to really stretch out your tongue.
And we're just gonna stretch out our tongues too.
Dance like a ballerina or like an angel.
Start moving around like you're a princess or something like that. Because working out doesn't have to be a drag.
Now walk like an elephant.
Everybody walk like an elephant and pretend you have an elephant's trunk. Remember now, you're a herd.
Tell them the floor is hot lava.
The floor is hot lava now, you can't stand on the floor.
They have to move to different blocks.
Switch! Very good, very good. Yeah, we gotta make friends.
You guys all have to find a hiding spot.
Go, find a hiding spot. Yeah, anywhere you can. Find a hiding spot and be as still as you can. Very good.
Set up a boat and really pretend to paddle.
Just sort of build a boat.
And someone has to be the shark.
Okay, get in the boat. There's a shark coming. Eric, you're gonna be the shark. Yeah, but it's a big shark. Yeah, paddle faster. You gotta paddle. You gotta paddle. You do, because she's steering. No, that's good. You gotta paddle.
Eric, go faster.
Eric, go faster. Faster, all of you. A big wave coming. Yeah, bail out. Bail out of the boat. Absolutely, that's a great instinct. Say hi to your instructors. Like the drugs that saves the world from numerous bacterial and viral epidemics that cost millions of lives in the past, adaptogens are needed to help man withstand the diverse stresses of today. G.M. Barenboim, Russian scientist. Adaptogens are a unique class of healing plants that help balance, restore, and protect the body against stress. They have strange names, like rhodiola, astragalus, and ginseng. You can find them in various formulations, in pill form or as a tea. Most of you have actually already been consuming adaptogens by drinking happy tea and adrena tea. Sometimes it is not being happy that makes you smile. It is smiling that makes you happy. According to research conducted at Carnegie Mellon University, there are numerous benefits to smiling. These include reducing the stress hormone cortisol, lowering blood pressure, and elevating your mood due to increased endorphins and oxytocin. Smiling has documented therapeutic effects. The health benefits of smiling are many. Smiling can help us get through intense physical, challenging situations. To help novice students stay safe, the instructor uses 3 hand signals. The first is to bend your legs. The second is to straighten your legs. And the third is to smile. The purpose of the smiling is that it is the most reliable way to get anxious new skydivers to relax and assume a natural, comfortable, and safe position. Turns out smiling may even impact how long you live. In 2010, a research group at Wayne State University studied baseball cards of 230 Major League Baseball players from 1952. They coded the smiles and found that the span of a player's smile could actually predict the span of his life. Players who didn't smile lived an average of 72.9 years. Players with partial smiles lived 75 years, whereas players with big, beaming smiles lived an average of 79.9 years. Did you know that the average adult only smiles 20 times a day, but a child averages 400 times a day? Why not change the way you feel? as well as those around you, just by smiling. It is highly contagious as well. So back to my original question. How are you living your life? As a marathon runner or a sprinter? Hopefully, you are now convinced to live it as a sprinter.